Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to the channel. As you can see, got a big shop project going on. That's pretty common for us in the winter time to have a big shop projects going on. After the drill, next is the planter. But we are going through here and adding Needham Ag Technologies. We'll show you a step-by-step process of what we are adding and share a few of the reasons why we are adding them. The three biggest things are these 3-inch narrow spoked gauge wheels, the V8 Furman wheel, and the 20-point crumbling wheel. These openers, they clamp on the tube. This is a 4x4 tube. We've actually had to replace this tube in the past. You just undo them 4 bolts and they slide off. You see that big block there? That's like a big bearing that tube rotates in. They are prone to crack right there and where your hydraulic cylinder attaches back there. So check it good. Check it and make sure everything is like it's supposed to be. We're fixing to zip these units off and pull them out the way. It helps if you got 2 people, and when you take it off, whoever's in the back, if you push forward on that unit, it'll keep it up there and keep it from falling off on you. When you pull it out, just hold down on that back wheel and now let it rotate and keep it from falling down. The best way I've found to move these units around, it helps if you got a concrete floor, but is to put one hand right here on the top of your unit where your closing wheel attaches, and then use that hand to keep it balanced. Take your other hand, put on these closing wheels and kind of rock it backwards. And then you can push it around on the disco. This is a pallet, and we just got a piece of plywood and screwed down to the pallet, and we have this pallet on our forklift so that we can pick this thing up and work on it at waist level. Whole lot less fatiguing. We've got 24 of these units to rebuild. It's a lot easier than sitting around rolling around on the floor all day is to get these things up on our level. But you saw Robert spraying penetrating oil on that. We got a few key areas that y'all will see us spray penetrating oil on, but I found the first thing to do, the easiest thing to do, is strip some of these components off of it where it is easier to flip around and work on. I'm gonna pull the gauge wheel off. Robert's fixing to pull that Furman wheel off there. Robert and I have had a discussion about working in gloves. I like wearing them, but sometimes they're a bigger pain in the butt than they're worth. Next thing we're gonna do, we're gonna go on and pull this cast iron closing wheel off. To do it, you gotta pop this little dust cap off. We just use an old screwdriver we don't care too much about. Just pry it off there. And now remember, some of these components on the left hand side are left-handed threads, reverse threads. Instead of righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, it's righty-loosey, lefty-tighty. That's so that as you're traveling through the field, especially like on that closing wheel, so that it's always tightening. If it was the reverse way, you would have the potential to back the nut off your threads. Because these wheels are turning to the left, which is, you know, lefty-loosey. So you have the potential to undo your nuts. And it's never good when you undo your nuts. This disc opener uses 4 carriage head bolts. Right there. There's a certain spot you can reach in and get to them. Normally it's right here where this thing is. But it helps to hold that carriage head bolt up because that keeps it from rounding the shoulders off on that bolt. Be very careful with impacts in these carriage head bolts, because, you know, I was holding them up there like that. Well, one time I was working on a 9600 combine for my old boss, and we was working on the beater behind the threshing cylinder, and it had carriage head bolts that held it together. Well, I was taking my finger and holding them carriage head bolts. Well, the shoulders of the bolt rounded off, and I had an impact spinning it. And it had wore down, and this edge had become super sharp. So it's sitting there spinning, and it's like a giant meat slicer. And it still freaks me out to this day talking about it. It spun right down my finger like this right here. I had to go get 5 stitches to put my finger back together. You probably can't see it on the camera, but maybe like that. Yeah, there. You can lightly. It's faded over the years, but it's still sensitive. And I think it took 5 stitches to put all that back together. Not a good day. So when dealing with carriage head bolts and impacts, it is always a good idea to have a set of gloves on. That's Dylan's safety tip for today. Alright, to get this blade off, you can rotate it off the axle. Sometimes they come off easy, sometimes they're a pain in the butt, but you have to pull that arm back some, and you got to take this firming wheel off to have room to tip it back. It's always a good idea to put your nuts back on your bolts and have you a little box or something to put your loose parts in where you're not, because if you just leave them laying up here on your table, you'll see in a minute things are going to get to vibrating and stuff falls off your table, and it's just not good. Robert's going to take the air hose and blow this loose dirt off this unit. And then we're going to go down here on the main opener arm and knock the pins and bushings out and replace the main opener pins and bushings. Alright, we got this main opener pin here, and there's a bushing, and y'all can see I can get my fingernail in between that pin and this bushing, and that is not a great. These units are designed to pull at like a 5-6 degree angle, I think. I don't know the exact number, it's somewhere in that range. And that helps to open that seed slide up, since you only have one disc opener on it as compared to two in the shape of a V on a planter. So you've got to have that angle to open the seed slide up. As these pins wear, the units start pulling straight and just make a slice as compared to making a V-shaped seed trench. So that's why it's so critical that them main opener pins and bushings be in good shape. There is a lot more that goes into planting than just the average person knows. But let me tell you this, as a beginning farmer, when I started, I did not have a lot of money to work with. When I first started, if you told me that I would have went and bought $10,000 worth of aftermarket drill parts, I would have laughed at you in the face and say, I can't even afford a $10,000 drill. My first drill I ever owned, I paid $1,300 for. And it was a good drill. It turned out to be a good drill, but you know, as we work more acres, it's time to update and step up to something a little better. Mainly, we was wanting to go to no-till wheat, and our old drill was just a minimum till drill. But I told you that to tell you this: if you're on a budget, this bolt, all right, loosen that bolt up, Rob. Now, did you see that I took the wrench off of it? I done that for a reason. There's a locking nut on this side. So I let Robert spin that locking nut and get this bolt to turning, and that helps to break some of that rust free so that this bolt will come out easier. So now we're going to pull the nut off. And then Robert should be able to just tap it right out. Which we're on camera, so it's going to come out easy now. And just take a punch of those. But you know, he see that he was able to pull that out by hand. So if you're on a budget, draw you a line across there. Alright. Now you can take your pipe wrench and rotate that pin 180 degrees. Rotate that pin 180 degrees, and the reason why I will show you right here. I can take my fingernail and catch that wire. Well, on the other side, there is no wire at all. And by rotating that pin 180 degrees, you start wearing on this side that isn't wore. So, if you're on a budget and your opener pins and bushings need redone, that is a good place to start to buy you a couple more years. We probably could have run another year or two on these. Some was worse than others. Some needed replaced pretty bad. Mostly those on the outsides of the drill, because they take the most abuse if you're doing some contour farming, or you know, when you're making turns, they take the biggest amount of abuse, so the pins wear more. What I kind of think works best is to drag the unit kind of over the edge of your table, and then put this 4x4 block. Pick up one more time, right? Nail that down. You see, there's almost a perfect spot for a 4x4 block to go. I don't know if I done that intentionally, but we like to use that. We got an air hammer, and we like to take the air hammer and just knock out a pin out. Gonna slip that washer out. Yeah, there's a good example. See, we had rotated these 180 degrees, and you see how it's kind of wore on both sides. This washer goes right in here, and they call it a thrust washer. And it's important to pay attention to what side that washer goes on. It always goes on the side your disc opener and stuff is on. Now you can just pull that out. And here comes my favorite part of the whole process, is we get to beat the crap out of something. This is a special tool from Needle Mag. If you buy 24 of the main opener pins and bushings, they give you that tool. If you have to buy it, I think it's $90, but you can probably make a tool like that. But even if you buy your pins and bushings from somewhere else, I advise buying that tool. It really comes in handy. Here comes the boom. It's my favorite part of the whole process. And shout out to Needle Mag. They accidentally shorted us 2 of these kits. And I called up there and she's like, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. And I was like, don't worry about it. I said, just, you know, we bought a dang box full of stuff, as you see. I said, accidents happen. Well, they next day shipped them pins to us. I called at, what was it, about 4:30 on a Wednesday afternoon, and at 10 o'clock Thursday morning, they was here. So they'll take care of it. So what I like to do installing these bushings, I like to give the hole a little lubrication. Lubricate that bushing too. A lot easier than going down in a dry hole. Get y'all's minds out of the gutter. Alright. So I like the first shot, I like to give it a tap, make sure it seats. And then just drive her on. Just drive it down flush. You don't really want it sticking out none out the bottom. And this is the most difficult part of the whole process, because now when you flip it over, you got this thing just flopping around. Alright, same process on this side. Normally about three good pops with a hammer. See if I'm Michael Jordan. Not in close.
You look like Shaq shooting free throws.
Now if I was Michael Jordan, I'd just jump from here.
Yeah.
I believe I can fly.
Space Jam.
I believe I can touch the sky.
The real Space Jam.
Not the one with LeBron. LeBron's just a Michael Jordan wannabe.
Not my Space Jam.
Here's your Needle Mag thrust washer. And then here's your John Deere thrust washer. I'm sure the John Deere's got some wear on it though, but this is to take up any wear on your unit. In severe cases, you can use this one and reuse the John Deere one, which our units are not in that bad a shape yet. Now next time we rebuild it, which is hopefully
Walt's problem.
Yes, hopefully Walt's problem. Or maybe he'll at least be a teenager and we can make him do all this heavy lifting, because me and Bob will be like 10 years older. Damn, I'll be 45 years old.
I'll be 41.
God. That old Primrose penetrating oil we use, if you get too close to it and snip it too long, you kind of get a little high. If I start acting crazy and fall out on the floor, y'all know what happened. But just kind of tap it till it lines up there. Put your pen in. And they make a slot to use your air hammer. Well, we can do that. Or you can just use a regular hammer. The bolt goes through from in between the spring and the opener, and the washer goes on the top. Nut on. They give a torque spec for this. I don't know what it is. I just hammer the bejeebus side of it. Or I use the gun in the wrong gear and run the nut off, you know.
Either way works.
Either way works. One just better than the other. And the reason you want this bolt so tight is you do not want that pin moving. You want the bushings to be doing the moving. And that just keeps from wearing stuff out faster. So just remember that, get this bolt tight, tight, tight. Next step, we are replacing these plastic seed tabs. A John Deere 1560 uses a two-piece boot design, whereas a 750 or 1590 use a one-piece boot design. And they only made this 1560 2 or 3 years, I believe, and then on the 1590s, what they went back to doing was putting that a seed boot like on the 750s. They say this 1560 boot isn't any kind. They say it'll throw seeds out of the trench. We've never had that problem. I like the design because I feel like it drops the seed straight down, and then this seed tab just automatically catches it and puts it in the bottom of the seed trench. I think they just went back to the 1590 design because you can buy these little seed boots for about half the price of a 1590 seed boot. And I mean, why would you be replacing all this crap up here when all you have to do is just replace the little old piece that runs down in the dirt? I think they had a good design. I don't know why they changed it. You kind of gotta, pop it a little bit and loosen it up. Alright, this is the seed tab we've got, and that's the newer seed tab. You see, still square at the bottom, still thick at the bottom. Needham Mag does not make seed tabs for my drill because he wants you to update to that 1590 seed boot. But theirs are very thick, and you see how this is wore off? They're like that from the factory. But my way of thinking is, if it's eventually going to wear into that shape anyways, that's just that much more material and that much more wear you're going to get out of your seed tab. We like to clean up these mating surfaces, and There's a little tab that goes here on this sea boot. We like to get all the dirt out of it so that sea boot mounts up nice and tight. Robert's just knocking the rust and the dirt. Also, while you're in here, now's a good time to check your bearing. Make sure it ain't got no play. Make sure it rolls free, doesn't make any noise. We've been taking that penetrating oil and spraying down in that indention. Stuff we're using is like a lubricant and penetrating oil kind of combo deal. We like to spray in here, try to get some in there between that nut and that axle. And on the beginning of the video, that's what Robert did. That these axles in these units are notorious for freezing up. They've got a special little slot for this C-tab to sit in. You see it just sits in there like that, and then it goes in that little indention, and then it just kind of mounts up in there like that. Got your bolt. Put our nut on. Sometimes you gotta take the hammer and you kind of see how it kind of pushes itself up in there, and then start our nut. This that tab don't always like to sit in there like it. I like to get a little tension on this boot, and then you can take that screwdriver and set your tab in there kind of wherever you want it. Now that's kind of like how I like to see them go in there. I like it in there deep. Tighten this baby up. Just now while you're in here, it's a good time to check and make sure your firming wheel bushings are tight. Ours are still good on these. Make sure your closing wheel bushings are tight. We replaced the bushings in these a couple of years ago, so we're good on that account. These are still good, so we're gonna hold off on that. We're probably stupid for not going on and changing them while we're in here, but I think surely goodness we can run another 4 or 5 years on them. So next up, Robert's gonna slip that old disc opener on there. See what I mean about having to pull your arm out the way. Slips right back in there. He'll slip the bolts in and we'll tighten them up. All right, when reinstalling your disc, you see how this side of the disc has a bevel and this side is straight? Your bevel always goes on the inside toward the seat boot. The bevel toward the seat boot. Just remember that, because it won't open. I don't know why, but they say it won't open the trench up. We've never experienced that because, knock on wood, we've always installed them right. Now Robert's installing this Neatomag V8 firming wheel. I think that's what they call it. Anyways, of all the products I bought from them, it's hard for me to believe that this one's gonna make that much difference. They was $50 a wheel. Not cheap. Here's the old wheel. This wheel was supposedly supposed to be a 1/4 inch smaller than this one. It's hard for me to believe that 1/4 inch of difference is gonna make that much difference on pressing the seat to the bottom of the trench. All right, next up, Neatomag calls this their 20-point crumbling wheel. And it replaces the old cast iron wheel. Have a spacer, 2 washers, your crumbling wheel. The theory behind these wheels are that they're a little more narrow profile. You've got these, I guess you would call them serrations or spikes, and they're supposed to crumble the seed wall or the seed trench and leave that soil on top of the seed a little softer. These are supposed to put them to the bottom of the seed trench, tuck them into moisture. This is supposed to come over them and put firm, I know it don't make sense, but as close as the seed, and puts it in there with looser soil than these old cast iron wheels. We've had a big issue that we faced this year was kind of suboptimum planting conditions, heavy soil moistures, and these old cast iron wheels just, I mean, they pack them soybeans in the ground. And if you know anything about a soybean, is they come up like a crook, and if they get packed in, they can break their necks, and it's very detrimental on stands. So we're hoping that'll alleviate some of these issues. Robert's gonna go on and that's a sealed bearing, but Robert's gonna go on and put a little grease in there just to help keep moisture and stuff out of that bearing. And then he's gonna pop the cap back on, and then we'll lay this unit down, and we'll only have one more step, and that is to put the gauge wheel on. This is our gauge wheel arm, and why they call it a gauge wheel, it gauges your depth. That's what controls your depth. Where we've got these units right now is we've got them set to plant 1 inch deep. And see, as you rotate this arm, it changes the relation. You see how much blade's sticking out here, but as you rotate that arm, it changes how much blade is showing, therefore it changes how deep your unit plants. These are actually narrower wheels than what we've been running. The old John Deere gauge wheels, I believe, are 4.5 inches. These are 3 inches. One thing these are really supposed to help with is planting in corn stalks, which you know, Robert and I do a lot of that as we no-till all our wheat. This is designed a little bit, you're supposed to have more consistent depth because your wheel is not riding as much on the residue in the field. If you're planting with the rows, drilling your wheat like we do, you're missing more of the corn stalks. You're less likely to get a gauge wheel on the row. So that's supposed to be the advantage of the narrower wheel. This wheel has a spoked design. I like that. It's supposed to clean the mud out better. Not supposed to get mud stuck in here. The mud can roll out, which you're not supposed to be planting in the mud, but every now and then you find a mud hole. It seems to be the story of our life. A wet spring, and then this summer, of course, had a drought. I can't remember when the last time we had a dry spring was. But we got that going for us. Like I said, cleans that mud out. There ain't none in this one. But mud, what'll happen, mud will get in here and pack in here and make a unit start dragging up. Happened on more than one occasion. So with this narrower gauge wheel, you gotta add an extra shim that we have not been having to add with the other ones. And that's gonna be too tight. So according to Needham's book, or instructions that came with these wheels, I don't know if we've been setting them wrong in the past, but I've always shimmed these gauge wheels just like a planter, to lightly Well, that one's out of adjustment, but to lightly touch them discs and rub against it. Well, Anita Mag's instructions, he said to leave about a 1/8 gap between this disc and the blade. And I mean, you can see a little gap in between it. And his reasoning on that is that when you set this unit down on the ground, that this axle flexes, and when you set it down on the ground, then the gauge wheel starts rubbing the disc opener. If you shimmed it tight to begin with, then you're putting way too much pressure on your disc opener running down the field, and that's the reasoning on that. So this unit is complete, guys. It's ready to set off the table, put over there, and then we don't like but one unit, and we're ready to start hanging these suckers and get this drill out of the way where we can play with other stuff. All right, Bob, let the operating table down. You always got to give it that last little. Well, she's ready to plant about 500 acres of beans this year. We can plant about 60. We can plant about 60 acres in a day pretty easy with this 15-foot drill. We've planted over 80 in a day, but that's a pretty long day. Definitely looks a lot meaner. If you like this video and like what we do and like the repair videos, we got a whole playlist full of videos we call our shop series. And if you want to watch all those videos, just go to my main page, click the icon down below, go to playlist on my main page and scroll down to where it says shop work, and you can see all the shop work videos we've done over the past 2 years when we started our YouTube channel. So there's some major projects, small projects. We also do product review videos. Just about every video you can imagine we've done. If you like what we do, give us a thumbs up and subscribe. Really helps our channel and puts us out there for more viewers to see. Well, we've reorganized again. We got the drill tucked back in there in the back, and got the planter out here at the front to be worked on. Yeah, the 43-year-old planter gets even more upgrades here in a few days, so y'all stay tuned for that. Gotta try out this honeybee header.
Get old granny polished up.
Polish on my tractor. Get the air conditioner going on. It's more important than polishing on the tractor. If y'all interested in our old Gator, Robert and I have finally decided to sell it and use the money for something else on the farm. It's an 18 model, one owner. It has done some farm work. We feed out of it. Hadn't been abused. Good old machine. Private message me if you're interested. 18 model, one owner, low hours. $267 hours. 3,005 miles. Good old machine. Gotta hold the brake. It's not cleaned up right now. We will clean it up for you.